Okay, everybody, welcome to another beautiful evening with us. I am astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn, and as you see, I have my special guest today is going to be me. Believe it or not, I'm going to interview me as best I can. That should be very interesting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And before I start, hold on, let me do this. Get this out the way. Here we go. And then I'm going to do this. And okay, here we go. Hi, folks. How y'all doing? Anyway, today is Wednesday. Okay, it is the 17th of November of 2021. Right now, the sun is still in the sign of Scorpio. Okay, the moon is in the fixed sign of Taurus. And for those of you who may have, if you're kind of in the media, there's going to be an extremely important phenomenon that takes place about once nearly every 600 years. That's coming up this weekend. I noticed when I was out and about, people's behavior was kind of off balance. I don't know what that means or whatever the case is. But anyway, I've got somebody who I'm going to bring who can talk about this. But so right now, the moon will move into Gemini at 9:33 Friday morning. But officially, it will be a full moon. But this will be a different full moon because it rarely occurs. And when it does occur, it is there's an eclipse also involved. So I decided to bring. I says, well, why not bring my special guest on? She's going to be with us in the first portion of this. Then in the second portion, I'm going to interview me for a half a second. That should be interesting, okay? Then I'm going to take your calls, and it's going to be fun. But the person I would like to bring up is this distinguished lady, Khalea Washington. Khalea, how are you? Khalea? Okay, let's see something. Khalea.
Hey Lloyd, how are you?
Fine. And if you are able to hear my guests, please let me know. Because we're doing this strictly by audio. All righty.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. All right.
Great.
Now, I
Great.
want to ask you this. What makes this full moon so special, and why it took almost 600 years to get to this point, if that makes sense?
Well, life is cyclic, and there are cycles that occur frequently, and there are cycles that are like phenomena because they only happen once in a lifetime or in hundreds of years. It just so happens that this particular phenomena has not occurred in 580 years. Now, that doesn't mean that it's something for us to catastrophize about, because when things only happen once in a while, everybody tends to clutch their pearls and go, oh my God, it's just that it hasn't happened in 580 years. And that cycle is that it is going to be almost a complete lunar eclipse at the same time that it's going to be a full moon. And the full moon always occurs when the sun is in a sign that's 6 signs away from the moon. So if the sun is in Scorpio, then that means the moon is in Taurus. And both of them are what we call fixed signs. And what it means to have a fixed signs or be born under a fixed sign is that fixed signs are, hardworking, determined, but they can also be very stubborn, very one-eyed, very rigid, and inflexible. They need a goal and a direction, and they tend to stick to it. So unfortunately, it throws them off to be adaptable or to change course in the middle of something, So that means that this full moon is occurring during a very intense and powerful cycle, because the sun is in a fixed sign, the moon is in a fixed sign, and it's a lunar eclipse. Again, I am not one of those persons that catastrophizes and looks for gloom and doom. Yes, it can cause a lot of adversity, and it can cause a lot of destruction. But what made me study astrology, what made me really get into the self-help and behavior modification aspects of astrology, was educating and teaching myself and others how to work with the cycle as opposed to against it. So the most important information I would like to be able to share for our brief time together is how to work with this cycle instead of having it work against you.
Well, let me add to that. Let me add to this. Now, there's the full moon, but then there is the lunar eclipse. What does that mean? What's the difference between, just as brief, so you can follow through with what you're saying? What's the difference of a lunar eclipse, which this seems to be, versus a solar eclipse, especially in a full moon situation?
Well, what happens with the lunar eclipse is that one planet is aligned against the other in such a way that it almost eclipses it. So instead of being able to fully view the full moon, the presence of this other planet being in direct alignment, you will only see a sliver of it. Whereas in this time last month, when it was a full moon, you could see the whole thing. There's going to come a phase. It's just like a windshield wiper going across very slowly, where instead of being able to see the whole full moon, you will just see a sliver. And you have to realize everything is connected as a result of energy. So when this cycle occurs in the midst of a full moon, it either eclipses the positive benefits of what you would get during that cycle, or it can obstruct. So, and since the full moon is known for accidents, more accidents occurring, more floods, because that's the time of the month when the tide is highest. That's usually when it rains more. That's when you have your tsunamis and things. I mean, anything can happen during this cycle, okay? But what we need to do, because of what we've been through in the last 3-year cycle of intensity, mania, fear, and unrest, we should already be doing this, whether it's a full moon, whether it's a lunar eclipse. At times like this, we really need to just go on pause, because this is a cycle that will make you feel more inclined to say, well, I don't care what you say, and I don't care what the rules are. I'm going on my own. I'm going my own way. Full moons also represent a cycle of ending. So if you're in a situation that you feel you've been barely tolerating, this is the cycle where you want to wrap it up. But be careful of how you exit. Don't give ultimatums. Just leave. Just fade to black. Keep the energy as focused and as calmly directed during this cycle anyway, because you know that these aspects will agitate the mania in the air, and they will also inflame the responses of others. So this might be a cycle where you really want to have it out, and you've been building, and they just said that one last thing or did that one last thing. This is the cycle where you need to pull on your reservoirs and stand back and look at it objectively. And instead of trying to get the satisfaction of the confrontation, you have to say, how can I behave my way out of this situation with the path of least resistance, with the thing that's going to bring the least amount of adverse effects?
Well,
you have to pray your way out of it. You got to meditate. You got to burn sage. You got to fall back. You have to time yourself, and what happens if you can do that during this cycle it's going to empower and enhance you, because if you're prone to these type of overactive reactive behaviors, you'll be able to give yourself credit for ending, leaving, or terminating a situation, while at the same time minimizing the drama, minimizing the adversity, minimizing the long-term reactions.
Well, I want to ask a question about that. Does this explain, based upon that emotional reaction that will throw people off their center, is that why people in hospital work, like nurses and whatnot, people in law enforcement, those two branches I heard have said anytime there's a full moon, especially when it's occurring on a weekend, their hands are going to be full. And I would imagine with this being a full moon eclipse in addition to it, would this explain why they would be more than busy, because people are just kind of emotionally off center, so to speak?
Full moons heighten things, and they heighten the intensity, the actions, the reactions, and the results. So if that is the case, and it's occurring in fixed signs that are not flexible, that are not adaptable, that tend to get locked in the righteousness of their views, whether they're right or not, that is why if you're going through adversity, or you're dealing with a cycle that feels wrought with adversity, it's what can we do collectively to modify that? What can we do to minimize the adverse effects?
Now,
Because, as you said, even people in hospitals and law enforcement are saying we're just beset with stuff. So what we put into the universe with our prayers, with our better behavior, with our, you know what we should be doing this weekend? We should be playing music that makes us feel good, okay? We should be watching comedies and things that make us laugh, but not just to say, oh, well, I don't care what's going on, I'm going to laugh. But if you look at the cycle that we've been through the last 3 years, it hasn't been that much funny going on. Some of us haven't had a good, gut-wrenching, soul-healing laugh in such a long time, that this would be the good weekend to do a whole weekend of things that make you smile, of things that make you laugh, of just, and if you're dealing with someone that it seems like no matter how you approach them, they either take it the wrong way or react the wrong way, but you know you love them, find something funny and just send it to them. But then make yourself totally unavailable for the response, even though it's like, oh, well, good, they responded. No, don't touch it. Just send it out there and get back to them in 4 or 5 days as the full moon is waning.
Hold up.
The eclipse is waning.
Now, there's one thing also, what makes this lunar eclipse unique, from what I understand, majority of it can be seen, actually one of those rare finds here in the United States. And I understand if you're on the East Coast, you see it's going to be they said it's going to be a total of 3 hours and 8 minutes, or 208 minutes, or 23 hours and 28 minutes, so to speak, almost, in that sense. So they said if you're here on the East Coast, it's between 2 to 5. If you're on the East Coast, is between 11 and 1, or something of that nature. But people will be able to see it. So for those here on the East Coast, like I am, my understanding is you got to get up if you want to see this eclipse being really exercised, since it only comes so rare. That you should get up about 2 o'clock. Of course, if you're gonna go outside, dress warm, because this is November already. And then, so will you, for example, will you get up to see this once in a?
Oh yes, I'm usually always up. It's just I'm gonna have to find a good location for viewing it, because everyone won't be able to just look up. You have to be in a good location where you have a direct gaze. But if you're going to look up at it, you know what I mean? You need to supplement prayers. You need to look up at that, give thanks for the magnificence. That the earth is displaying and the planets are displaying. But if we collectively sent out our prayers for the best possible good, for the healing of the world, for the people who have lost people, that they don't grieve too long and too hard. What we have a tendency to do is we have to think of all these elements as being outside of us when we're all a part of the collective of what's happening inside of us, in the air, in the earth, in the sky. And just like we pray to God, we can pray, for the healing of the world, to supplement ourselves on behalf of a positive cosmic shift, so that because it's not enough of that energy being emitted, and not only is it not enough of it being emitted, it's in the midst of so much chaos, fear, blaming, name calling, and looking for something to blame. So
you know what? That is so seems to be. I'm sorry to interrupt, because I mean that seems to be so much the situation that we see out here every day, and I mean, and it's just changed the whole energy. This is why I'm saying: is the world off balance? Is the earth off balance, off its axis, based upon some of this nonsense? And it may be, but I do want to switch gears a second, because people don't know, as against over and above you being a solar biologist, one of the best in the business where astrology is concerned, you are also an artist. Can you explain?
Yes. But I just want to conclude a comment.
Yes, please
And
do.
that is,
Please do.
when you said, is the world off? What has happened is we have gotten a hold of a really bad script, okay? And the script has been handed down from the top to the bottom, and people are feeding from that script, not realizing that as individuals and collectively, we are authors as well, and we can rewrite the script. And see, we're waiting for the script to be changed by someone else or something outside of ourselves before we change the way we're thinking and the way we're languaging and the way we're responding. And we haven't caught on that we have the capacity within ourselves to say, you know what? I've been following this script, and it's just making things darker, uglier. It's affecting my mood. It's affecting my life. It's affecting my relationship. I need to detach. I need to take inventory. I need to look around my life and see what little incremental things I can do, whether it's prayer, whether it's meditation, whether it's affirmation, whether it's music, whether it's nicer people, whether it's better conversations, whether it's being kinder, whether it's respecting the cycle and taking inventory, or taking a spiritual bath, or burning some sage, or checking where the planets are and seeing how to make the most of it to recreate the shift. We can't wait till this is over, because we're letting ourselves be swept up in a negative current.
Okay.
I had to say that, Lloyd.
No, want to let you, but because as I said, you didn't even know you were going to be on until I called it as, could you explain this moon? But I also want to let people know, as we go to a close, that there's another side of you as an artist. Can you explain that?
Yes, many of us are multifaceted individuals, So when I did my first astrological chart, there are 12 houses, but these planets, which speak to different areas of your life and how you behave, and what kind of work you're going to do, and how you handle money, and what you deal with, how you deal with relationships, and the kind of people you attract. I had 5 planets in my 5th house, and your 5th house is your house of creativity, and so even when you look at a person having children, it's not the 4th house of home and family, procreation is the most creative thing a man or woman can do. So as I grew, I always loved art. I always loved creating things. I always loved designing things. I always loved decorating things and doing things like that. And being involved with so many talented people in the arts community, more and more, little by little, I started to lend my hand to designing and creating and reimagining and styling singers and celebrities for special events. And this is something that in some capacity I've had professional training, but then in another capacity, it's just a gift and an innate knowing, you know. So I have a line called Khalea's Collections. I do art, I do clothes, I do jewelry, I style people for special events, I do homes, and it's and the nice thing about it that's so gratifying is that I never started out with this as a career path. It was just things I did for myself, and I got so much great feedback. Or it would be something that I saw, and I said, you know, I might not be able to replicate that, but let me see what would happen if I did it for myself. And I would get such an overwhelming response. And I have to tell you, being confined and even quarantined during this pandemic, I have fully utilized my creative side to keep my sanity, and it has been just the most precious gift, seeing the things that I've designed and I've created and the response from people. Oh, Khalea, I know you didn't just make one of those. I've got to have one. So I have a nice cross section of beautiful things. Now, on some things that I wasn't as skilled, I would do the design and have somebody that was more proficient either do the tailoring or the things like that. But it's been a blast, and I'm thankful for it, because one of the things that we don't realize when we get in situations where we can't do what we've always done is, instead of going on pause or shut down and saying, well, I can't really come back full tilt until this area of my life opens up. That's the time when you look around your life and see, what else can I do? What else needs to be done? How can I make this better? And there's always something that can and needs to be done. So
well, I do think that the climate of things are making people do just that since the beginning of 2020, especially through now. The fact that a lot of people don't even want to go back to their jobs and they want to go into other areas. I think perhaps this pandemic has really brought out more in people in terms of exploring other areas of their life, as you have, than at any other time. Now people are finding that more they feel better working from home, and so a lot of things have been changing. And I was telling somebody pretty much in alignment that conditions like this is what brings out other aspects in a person. But I will not say this before I close, and I want to thank you very much for coming on. And as you see at the bottom of her screen is Khalea Washington, Khalea Washington, and she is a solar biologist. And we've just only been knowing each other about 40 years or something like that, right? Yeah. So
it's always a pleasure to be
yeah. Oh, and I gotta let people know your phone number is 973-951-5846. That's 973-951-5846. And your email is Khalea's Collections. And I like you don't spell the collection with a C, you spell it with a K. So that's Khalea's Collection. KHALEASKOLLECTION at gmail.com. And by the way, please support her. She, like all of my guests have come on, have done, this is the work that she has done. She's done this work most longer than a lot of people are out there that's living right now. And so she has done this. She's believed in this. And so please support her through the PayPal, which is her phone number, 973-951-5846. So, okay, beautiful lady, before we go up, because I got to interview myself, this is going to be fun. So we're going to, I'm going to
listen in.
Yeah, well, anyway, what parting words would you like to share concerning this full moon and stuff that people can go away with? So when this full moon effect does come on the eclipse on a Friday, question, is that after Thursday 12 midnight or after Saturday 12 midnight that they can see this eclipse? Does that make sense?
It's gonna be after Friday 12 midnight. It's gonna be early Saturday morning.
There we go.
And we've covered a lot of things, but for those who are hearing me for the first time, my specialty is astrology, and my focus is on self-help and behavior modifications, which means when you get a reading from me, I'm looking at your birthday to see what's going on with you, what kind of cycle you're in, how to get the most out of it, where you might be blocked, how to get out of your own way, and also we'll look at your relationships to see what the pluses and minuses are, if it's worth it, how best to proceed based on the difference in your energies and where you blend well, or whether it's best to move on. And you can then make that decision. But my reading will match your reality 100%. To get more information about Khalea's collection, I do have an event coming up at the end of the month, probably a Black Friday show and sell. And Lloyd and I are working on putting together a conference for 2022 at the Newark Public Library, where people will be able to come out and we'll be able to share more information in detail. Lloyd, I love you. I appreciate our friendship in this platform because it has allowed me to really actualize myself and not only learn more, but share information that's not only going to help and empower me, but my people as well. So thank you as always.
Thank you very, very much, beautiful. And I say to you and all the best for your Black Friday event. So everybody, please do make note. Contact 973-951-5846. That's 973-951-5846. Khalea, thank you so much, beautiful. And thank you for explaining about this moon.
Be easy, Lloyd. Enjoy the weekend. Stay calm. Be easy. Fall back. Rest. Relax. Don't rush.
I'm not letting anything ruffle my feathers. No question. Okay. That's how we're going to do this. But thanks, Khalea, and God bless you. And thank you, because this was the last minute. I didn't know I was going to call you, but I says, well, I can explain this full moon. And then I says, well, no, let me get a person who is really a professional that knows this inside and out. And I called you at the last minute when you were getting acupuncture and some other appointments that you had today. So the fact that you took that valuable time out of your day to be here to explain it in a more detail so people can really understand the full ramification of this full moon eclipse is, bless you. Love you very much for that too. All righty.
Love you too, Lloyd. Take care and be well.
Bye-bye, you too. So, as you see, I thank Khalea very much, and I thank you too. I hope you were able to hear it by phone. But anyway, I want to have some fun today because for the last Mondays and Wednesdays, I've always had guests. So I says, okay, Lloyd, why don't you be your own guest? So I'm going to ask some questions of Lloyd Strayhorn, and Lloyd Strayhorn is give you some answers. Okay. One of the questions we're going to ask Lloyd is, listen, how did you get started? Well, believe it or not, I was never the best math student on the planet. So I had somebody said, Lloyd, you would do well. You would write books. You would have shows and TV and all this doing numerology. I'd have lost all my money because I just knew that wasn't so. But what happens is it started because I was very shy in school. And to a way, even in my adulthood, I'm still a little bashful. But in my bashfulness, I says, okay, I don't know exactly how I came across astrology, but I did know that once I was an Aquarius, I would begin to read everything I could about that particular zodiac sign, what made us tick, what our preferences was, what our career leanings were, all the kind of things, good, bad, and indifferent, because every one of the signs in the zodiac have their pluses and they have their minuses, but it's about striking a balance, which is the symbol of the scale. So I got into this, and it was junior high school, and then I went on to other schools, and then I was introduced in the summer to numerology. That word came to me while I was in the middle of doing something, and it was a heavy downpour of the rain. And somebody had said, "Did you ever have you ever heard of numerology?" That was the first time, but that led me on the odyssey. So once I finished school, one of my first jobs here in New York City was to was actually with CBS radio television, and they had a book division at that time called Avon Books. I don't think they have it now. And so I love to read, as you can tell, looking behind me. And so by reading, having this desire to read, I one of the first books I picked up was Vincent Lopez's Numerology. That was it. Vincent Lopez at that point in time was a famous orchestra leader in the day, as they say. And but he had wrote this book about it, and I just found it intriguing. And then what made it nice for me is I says, okay, the numbers go from 1 to 9. I got 10 fingers. Okay, I got this. I got this. Not knowing that it would then get a hold of me. And this is the beauty of numerology. And what happens is this: I found out that when you go and talk to a person, if you don't know them, let's say you got somebody standing at a bus stop or a train stop, right? And you say, what's your birthday? They're going to probably say, well, who are you? All right. And understandable. But I found what happened that made it intriguing for me. It did something that palmistry didn't do, astrology didn't do, the tarot didn't do, which is not only did it deal with your birthday, but it dealt with your name. Because more than likely, if I approach a person at a bus stop, a sister, for example, she will more than likely tell me her name than give me her birthday. Well, why you want to know my birthday? Well, by knowing the name in and of itself, you begin to unlock all the natural talents, gifts, skills, and abilities about that person. So this is what led me to this. Then I was blessed at that time living here in Harlem to go to at that time the Tree of Life bookstore on 125th Street. They used to call it the uh, on the corner of Lenox Avenue, me and Brother Revels Bay, and in fact, Queen Afua, that I would love to have on my show, Queen Esther, that I would like to have on my show at some point up the road. They were at that time teenagers. Now they've got their own children, they got grandchildren. So it all started that way. And then what happens is people would then begin to ask questions, which is what led to the name of my book, Numbers in You. The beauty of being in New York City. You think you out of Missouri, the show me state. Well, let me tell you, in this city, you better have your act together. So if I says, well, yeah, you're number 7. Yeah, what does that mean? So what? You know? And what it did was it made me do my homework. And so I can't tell you what a joy it has been. So now had somebody said, Lloyd, you would write books, you would have a show, radio show that lasted over a little over 20 years, I'd have lost all my money. I'd have lost it. You never know how your life is going to go, as Khalea was explaining. So what I'm saying is all of us have multiple talents, multiple skills, multiple abilities. However, the way the culture seems to be now, they got us so busy focusing on a person's backyard that we're not looking in our own backyard. And I always say this, and I always tell my clients, you either think for yourself or somebody will do your thinking for you. I guarantee you. And why you think you got a brain? Okay? What do you do with your brain other than follow somebody? And what I'm saying is that this is what led me down this path. Because I'm an Aquarius and we're the humanitarian sign, it allowed me to be of help to other people and things like that. I mean, there's so much more to me. If I ask what part of numerology I like all of it. And then I'm so curious. I like to say I'm nosy, but for people who can't handle it, I'm very curious. I will ask lots of questions, can't help it. But that's the only way you can get to the bottom of what you're looking for. And since this is now the age of information, it would behoove every single one of you to question anything that comes in your space. Okay. And if a person is coming from the side of truth, no problem. But if a person is coming from the side that is not truthful, I think that you have a divine right to question it. I think you have a divine right to exercise your own intelligence. and reach your own conclusions. Not that other people don't mean well, because sometimes people's intentions are okay. And then you got some people there, their intentions are not okay. So at any rate, that is my role. One day I'll interview myself more, but I want to get to all the many people that that had chimed in about this, and I want to thank everybody. So right now I'm looking at some. There was a lady that called in, and it's interesting because she said that this is Marceline Gilman, that she is born November the 30th. So happy birthday coming up in about another week and a half and change, and that her son is born on the 21st. Now, here's the thing. One of the beauties of this is when you are into numerology, the way I am, and the way many of my students have, that's come into their own rights, from King Simon to this person, that person, that you begin to see patterns. As one of my clients from another part of the state told me, you see patterns, and there are patterns. So, for example, if you look at this birthday, she's born on the 30th, and her son is born on the 21st. Now, if you're not trained the way it may not make any sense to you until you understand that each number rules a day in the week, each number rules dates in the months, and each month rules a number in the year. So, for example, this person is a 3. So that means Thursday's her best day, which is tomorrow. It also means that in her case, that anything on the 3rd, the 12th, the 21st, or the 30th would be very important to her. And because 3 rules 2 months, which is March and December respectively, it means late February into March, late November into December. And if you notice, she's born late November going into the month of December, because the 30th is the last day of November, excuse me, before you reach the month of December. And her son is a Pisces. So in the case of her, her numbers are the 3, 6, and 9, which is what I teach in my course. And her son's numbers are the 3, 6, and 9. So although I don't think I know them, much less seen them, one thing is clear. They either look alike, act alike. Let's say the father is dealing with the son and he does something. He said, boy, you just like your mother. Or the mother will say, boy, you just like your father. And this is why you can tell which parent will lean more toward one child than the other, although they're children, okay? But is there chemistry? There's a chemistry that we have that is taking place. So anyway, that's how it works. And I got my buddy Kenny Amos that I've been knowing from back in the day, who is an Aquarius like myself. We have a history that goes way back. We were in a band together, believe it or not. We even won first prize on amateur night on the Apollo stage. You could not tell us jack after that. Okay, we were like just feeling ourselves, but that was a nice experience. And for that, also, let's see. This here is D Free Baby. She is born on June the 28th of 1995. And her birthday is at 3:45 in the morning, um, which is interesting because that tells me her son is probably somewhere in about the second house or something like that. But anyway, the point is this: we all have an element that governs our zodiac sign, and we all have an element that governs our number. This is why all cancers don't act one way, all Leos act another way, or anything else for that matter. So in this case, this person is a water sign, which is ruled by the element of Cancer, but with a fire number, because 2 plus 8 is 10, 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 rules the sun, and it is definitely ruled by the element of fire. So a person may say, well, this is kind of contradictory. Well, first of all, the water and the fire will make steam, or it simply means that at times, if you catch this person on a good day or one day, they will exhibit more the emotional side of their disposition, which is the nature of water, which is feelings and intuitions, hunches and emotions. And then there'll be times if you catch them on another day, they're on target, they're very direct, they're not taking no stuff, they're in your face, and they're ready to take charge, which is the nature of a number one. So when you understand this, you begin to understand that every single one of you who is viewing this is very, very special. It's what you do or don't do with your specialness. Again, it seems that we are so busy, or whatever the powers that be, or the culture that be, or the media that be, has us so busy looking elsewhere that right in front of us, right within you, has all the makings of your greatness. It's just how do you tap into it? And that's what happened. Not that I knew I would be great, all that stuff. I was just shy trying to talk to the girls. That's the only reason why I was trying to get my stuff together. Okay. But it just happened that it turns out that I found that everybody wants to know about themselves, which is why every week that I'm on this show, everybody always chimes in. And it's the most nicest thing to have people come. So, yes, I do have to say, please like, please share, subscribe. But my philosophy is this: you can have 10 million subscribers, but very, very few quality people. It's nice to have these numbers. Oh, your numbers are going up and this, that, and the other. That's great. But my job is to teach you the numbers that are most important, the numbers that guide your life, the numbers that put you in the right place at the right time in perfect harmony with the universe. That's my objective. Anything less than that, I miss the point of doing this every week. So I make it fun because my background is in radio and television. And then, those are entertainment fields. Okay. So I make it entertaining or funny where the person can kind of relax and loosen up. But I am dead earnest about what I do. And numbers, I don't care whether you agree or disagree, the numbers always play. For example, how did they know that this solar lunar eclipse taking place on Friday that can be seen early Saturday morning, as Khalea Washington says, how were they able to do that? They had to do it by numbers. That's the only way. When you put your GPS and you in your car or on your phone and you trying to find where you're going to, those GBS has a longitude and a latitude, which is all expressed in numbers. So you go to your doctor, they look at your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your weight, numbers. You go to your dentist, they look each tooth in your mouth, numbers. You go to your accountant, numbers. You go into the gym, numbers. So why not learn the esoteric side of numbers? Because although they're invisible and you can't see them, they have as much profound effect. And believe me, I wouldn't be, because one of the questions is, Lloyd, how long you been doing this? Well, I've been doing it more than the New York Minute. That I can tell you. At least 35 plus years I have been doing this. And the more I do it, the more it rings true each and every time. This is an exact science. And as I said before, and I will say it now again so we are clear, this is an ancient African science. No one should take offense because that is a fact of the matter. That is a fact of history. And so it doesn't take anything away from anybody else. But please let us give credit where credit is due in terms of the origin of all of these sciences. That the people came out of Egypt, the father of this, the father of that. But if you ask what question, of the question is asked on what continent is Egypt, it's on the African continent. I didn't write the history books, okay? That's the fact of the matter. So once you do that, lighten up. It's not that serious, okay? But factually, this is serious, and that is the point. So let me see if I can get to somebody else. Okay. Somebody said they couldn't hear her speak. Then somebody said they could. Um, there's a TJ, and he's born October the 15th. So here's what I'm saying. When a person comes to me, I'm able to tell them their numbers. All of us mostly have three numbers. There is that rarefied few that have four numbers. But on average, there are three numbers that each and every one of you possess. And in this case of TJ, born on the 15th of October, his birthday, let me put this up on the screen. He's a number six person. Why? Because 1 + 5 is 6. So I always teach the students, and it's on my online course that you can enroll to. And you can go to my website, by the way, Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. Lloyd, LLoyd Strayhorn, Strayhorn.com. And scroll down. By the way, when you're scrolling, you'll see the free monthly newsletter that me and my associate in Detroit writes each and every month. So November is out. What's this? The 17th day. So you still got a good portion left to find out what's up for you. And in fact, I got a wonderful testimonial from a lady today that I read. One of the reasons she says that newsletter is always on point. It's not me saying it, although I would love to say it because we wrote it. But the point is that people find it pretty much in their liking. So a lot goes into it. It's not just words, and much less empty words. It's words that try to uplift, encourage, and guide you in a very intelligent way. So in this case, in the case of TJ, his numbers are the 6, 3, and 9. So this in numerology is considered the artistic chord. And so what it tells me, There are certain days that are best for him, in this case, Friday, Thursday, Tuesday. Every single one of you have a special day, a special date, a special month, a special year, and a special age. It's what we do with it. It's about having that kind of understanding to really, really use it to your advantage. And it's not to any other person's disadvantage. It's to use it so you can be, again, as I always say, in the right place at the right time in perfect harmony with the universe. I mean, everybody knows, man, they was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Okay. They shouldn't have left out too early, or they should have waited, or whatever. So just as if a person could be in the wrong place at the wrong time, my rationale is, why not the opposite of being where you're supposed to be, when you need to be, when you're supposed to be. So with those kinds of things, that is my goal and objective. So in the case of TJ, his best months would always be March, April, May, October, November, December. How am I able to do that? One would ask me. Simple, because just as each number rules a day, it rules a date, it rules months, and it also tells me that his ages are very important. So I know that age 30, age 33, age 39, age 42. The reason why all those are interesting, if you notice, all those ages I just mentioned about this person, his age number either adds up to a 3 or a 6 or a 9. And I can even do that with his year. I can say, okay, 1992, 1995, 1998, 2004, 2007, because all those years I just named had a one thing in common. All those years add up to either, in his case, either a 2, a 3 or a 6 or a 9. Every single one of you. So it's not just TJ. Every one of you have it. It's just, this is why, I love what I do. And then I like helping people. That's my humanitarian aspect. So if people want to know how I got started, it was to help me, not knowing that I would help so many, many people that I've been blessed to meet over this long time. Now, while I'm looking for somebody else, I'll think of another question. This is George. Now, George is born on the very first day of January in 1981. So he's really a triple one. What do I mean? And I'm glad you asked me that, because he's born in the first calendar month, which is a 1. He's born on the first calendar day, which is a 1. But if you pay attention and add 1981 adds up to 819. 1 plus 9 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1. So he is a 1 across this whole spectrum. So I don't know what George do, but I can tell you this: taking orders well is not in the cards from his destiny. Okay. If he wants peace, if he wants, and by the way, he has a 3 destiny. How I determine that, because I did a show one time in Washington. I may have explained it. And Bishop T.D. Jakes had called into the studio, on the phone line while I was in the studio with the host. And he had just at that time put out a book called Destiny. And because of the nature of what I was talking about with the host of the show, she let me talk to him over the phone. I think it might be on my website, because I've interviewed Layla Hathaway, Monique the comic, all these. I've interviewed a lot of people. I'm hoping they still have it. But when I talked to him, I explained that all of us have a destiny. You, me, and everybody else. Ants, dogs, cats, birds, you name it. If you come here on some month, some day, some year, you have a destiny. But the beautiful way, I like Sister Iyanla Van Zant explained it, we all have a contract. And that contract is the destiny. So this person, George, his destiny number is a 3. When you add the month, the day, and the year he's born. So that means symbolically he's in the 3rd grade in the school of life. Now, in any public classroom or private school, you got to learn grades. That's one thing. And sometimes you may not have to learn. You can kind of skate past it and whatnot. But in the real world, you got to learn. And so in this case, he's in the 3rd grade, which means being creative, being expansive, being imaginative, whatnot. Since 3 is a career-oriented number, and since the number 1 from his month, his day, and year are career-oriented numbers, I know that this is a person, for George to really be happy, he needs to be in charge of his destiny. He needs to be in charge of his life. Why? How? Manager, supervisor, director, CEO, president, something, some level of authority would be his. And by the way, his key or lucky numbers are the 1, 4, and 8. He'll find that Sunday and Tuesday and Saturday are always his best days, and he will always tend to do well in the months of January, boom, February, April, August. those would be his months. And when you say that, and see, when I tell this to people, what I take people through a Q&A. After I read them and I explain their numbers and whatnot, then I'll ask, what month was your mother born? What month and day? And I'll have them underscore. And you can see people's reaction that this is, that's all I can tell you. Anyway, let me move on to the next one. What question can I ask myself? Oh, is there anything you don't like about numerology? No, there's nothing. I love this. There are certain aspects of numerology I really love, but for the most part. And people have asked me, are there any numbers that are bad for you? When you do this, as long as I have, as I said, 35 plus years, none of the numbers are bad because part of the power of numerology is the understanding of their energy and what they bring to the table. Okay. It's only when our lack of knowledge and understanding, and this is why, for example, a person may have, let's say, Tuesday, Thursday as their stress days. And I'll explain on these days that are considered stressful, it's like walking in the potholes or craters or whatever the case is. But then, as I use the illustration, but then you put a lamppost on this street called Tuesday and Thursday. So even though the conditions of the street don't change, you can see where you're going. And so I try to use that illustration to say there are no bad days. And so those so called negative days you use to strategize what you're going to do, think about what you're going to do. But on those days that are best for you, you use those days to execute what you're going to do. And you find that you get a lot further faster, okay, without the stress and the strain and whatnot. And so this is why I'm going to have my good buddy back on soon, Brother Rebels Bay. We're both 7, so I'm partial to him, okay? Sue me, all right? Anyway, and then we're going to have other people on too. But I think it is fun, it is fascinating, and then I'm going to read my brother here too, Brother Brandon. In fact, near the end of the year, I'm going to have a panel of experts. I've called them experts. Now, this is my opinion, and they're going to give their assessment about the year to come for 2022. So, for example, if you take Brandon, he's a Libra, but he's not just a Libra. He's a Libra 2 person. Okay. And what you do, and see, this is what got me into astro numerology, that I look at the sign, he's a Libra, but I also look at the number. He's born on the 20th, and 2 plus 0 is 2. So that means there will be primary numbers that will always follow him in some way, shape, or form. So those numbers being, from my experience of doing this so many years, the 2, the 7, and the 3. Now, numbers have a certain order according to your birthday. People, when I say these numbers, they say, oh man, I'm going to run to the nearest library store. It's not that. I'm talking about, it's like you go to his safe. If I go to Brandon Smith's safe and I want to get in, I got to turn that tumbler in a certain numerical sequence or I don't get in. If you want to go to a woman's heart to get to know her better, you got to turn that lock or turn that tumbler in a certain numerical sequence in order to get in. It's just that simple. Okay. And so once you know that, for example, his numbers are the 2, 7, and 6, not the 6, 2, 7, 7, 2. It's the 2 first, then the 7, then the 6. What does that mean? Then each number is assigned a day. Well, the 2 and the 7, since they're both governed by the moon, rules Monday, and the 6 rules Friday. That makes it his best days. Then you take it to the next level by saying, okay, these are the dates that will always be significant in his life. Anyone in his life who was born on the 2nd, the 6th, or the 7th, the 11th, the 15th, the 16th. If people who want to know why did I say the 11th, the 15th, and the 16th, simple. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 5 is 6. 1 plus 6 is 7. Then there's the 20th. That's a 2. 2 plus 0 is 2. The 24th, that adds up to a 6. And 25, which is a 7. And then finally the 29th. So I could safely tell him with accuracy, riding or putting all my bets on it, that the next 2 years are going to be good for him. Why? And I'm glad you asked me the question again. Because if you look at 2022, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. Well, his numbers are the 2, 7, and 6. So I know right away next year should be a monster year and the year to follow, because after 2022 comes 2023, and 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3 is 7. This is why I think numerology is the sleeper, but yet it is the master of all of the metaphysical sciences, because everything is about the math. Everything is about the numbers. You cannot get around it. You cannot go to a professional astrologer, whether here in New York, here in Detroit, here in Jersey, here in Boston, without giving them 5 pieces of information, which is all described in numbers, which is the month, the day, the year, the time, and location. And for people that may say, well, location is not a number. Well, you take those who know about the longitudes and the latitudes, which is how they're able to launch satellites into space, how they're able to fly a plane from here to there, how when you get in your car, you just punch in an address and that GPS by way of longitude and latitude will get you to the exact destination that tell you 30 feet from here and the building you're looking for is on the left side or the right side. It is absolutely fascinating. And the woman that developed the GPS is of color. She's an African American woman named Gladys West. In fact, the state of Virginia gave her an honorarium about several years ago. Her husband, bless his soul, is a mathematician too, but it was Gladys West that developed the GPS. Okay. And it doesn't take anything away from anybody except it's putting everything into perspective. To be honest, this cancer culture, I don't know what that's about. I haven't been watching the news in quite some time. And I would recommend that all of you at some point get into some form of meditation, still the mind so you can focus. The mind is always very active. So anyway, that's my thing. Thank you, Brandon, for letting me get in your business a second. Okay, let's see who else I can get here. All right. Anyway, Kafunya, thank you, Kafunya. And for all of you who take the time to really tune in and give your birthdays, Oracal, for example, she was on my show. She's going to be back on my show again. Now, Oracal, for example, who was one of the earlier guests on my show, will be back. But she is a Gemini, but she's born June the 11th. So for those in numerology, they are considered what are called the master numbers, which is 11 and 22. So she's an air sign but with fire numbers. Well, why do I say that? Because they'll say, well, Lloyd, isn't 1 + 1 2? Yes, technically. But her 2, unlike the 2nd, the 11th, the 20th, or the 29th, if you notice, the other 3 dates all have a 2 in it. The 2nd, then the 20th, like Brandon, then the 29th. However, this particular set of 2s is composed of 2 1s, which are fire numbers, okay? And so therefore, this is why the master number 11 has been assigned in astrology to the sign of Leo, and in a minor way, the sign of Aquarius. For example, if you look at the master number 22, well, 2 + 2 is 4, and that is assigned to Aquarius, whose rulership is ruled by Uranus, which is the number 4. All of this is all relative. And I wish everybody, and I got to be honest, to my nice surprise, I'm working on close to 2,600 students that have signed up for the course. You can too. All you got to do is go to Lloyd-Strayhorn.com, okay? And when you go there, you go down, when you get to what they call the landing page, I'm beginning to learn some of the lingo of how this works. So when you get on the landing page, you go down and sign up for the free monthly newsletter. You have an option of giving your birthday or not. That's strictly up to you. But you need to give us the email in order to send it to you. This is KayaFrench.com and Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. We will send them to you. There was somebody asked, and I made it clear on Monday, but for those that may have missed Monday, the mailing list, your email that you send to us is kept with us, okay? It is not for sale. I'm not playing that. I'm not going to do that. I get so much junk mail in my email box, I can barely get. I mean, for every one serious email, I must got about 10 or 15 junk mails. I'm sure some of y'all have gone through that too. So I would not do that to you. I cherish the fact that you would believe enough to sign up for the free monthly newsletter, and I respect that. Now, maybe tell you what I'm doing, a promotion that Lloyd Strayhorn is doing, or my partner who does the newsletters are doing. But never you're going to hear some, well, Lloyd sent this, and who gave you permission? So I try to show respect for the people that have honored it. But further down, you'll see a picture of me sitting at a table holding my books, and that's where you sign up for the course. I have 2 courses to teach you how to do this. I have a beginner's course called Learn from Lloyd, How to Read a Person Like a Book. And then the second course is Learn from Lloyd, The Next Step in Numerology. Both of those was put together by one of my numerology students, Jackie Levine. She's going to be on the show soon, too. So what I'm saying is so many of us, so many of you have talents. All we have to do is tap into them, and again, don't be distracted by other people. And I think that's fine. But are those people going to pay your bills? I don't think so. Are they going to pay your rent or mortgage? I don't think so. Are they going to buy your food or groceries? I don't think so either. Or pay your medical bills or your phone bill or your light bill. So tap into yourself to learn how to be self supportive. Of course, you got people that want you to be codependent. I suggest that's not the way to go, not in this world. Okay. So it's not that you don't need anybody else. I'm not saying that. We all need each other, but not to the point that your whole existence and survival is depending on somebody else's, whether I like you or I don't like you today. I don't think that's the way to live, but that's my philosophy. I'm speaking strictly for Lloyd Strayhorn. This is my show, thank you. And so this is how I feel about what I do. And so I respect everybody for what they do, everybody for the path they choose. But the point is to be happy about what you're doing too. To live a job or go on a job and you paying bills or whatever, and then you retire, you're going to only a couple of weeks vacation, then you pass on. And so what kind of life have you had? So have the best life ever. Now, when you make choices like my guests have done, be prepared to struggle. It is not easy. I'm here to tell you. When I listen, and one of the questions is, how did I start? Well, when I got into this, right? I told my dad, Dad, I want to be a numerologist. He thought I said neurologist, which is a doctor that studies the nervous system. And so he must have thought about it, because about a week or two later, he says, what was that again? I says, I want to be a numerologist because I found something that I really love. All of you got something you love. You got to search for it. I'm willing to bet you. Think of it this way. If you did not get paid, what would you like to do free? That will probably give you a clue as to where probably your passions are that will probably support you. And if you look at the people who've done very well, I'm not talking about athletes, I'm not talking about entertainers, you would think those are the only two avenues made for a successful individual. That's not true. Okay. You could be a consultant, you could be an accountant, you could be a lawyer or a doctor or a scientist or an inventor or an engineer. Okay. You can be many, many things, but the projection seems to be, if you're an athlete or you are an entertainer, you're going to get paid well. Well, I'd rather get paid for personal satisfaction than to say I'm an athlete, whatever. Then you got all the drama, everybody's all up in your flavor, this kind of thing. So this is my philosophy. But I'm saying, think about, say to yourself, well, listen, if I didn't get paid, what would I love to do? That's your first tip off to probably where your passions lie, and follow it. So the long story is, my pops asked me, now that he found out I wasn't going to be a numerologist and the first black doctor in the family, Strayhorn family, how are you going to make a living? I had no answer for him at all. Many of these people that you see on my show probably don't have an answer, but they have a passion. For some reason, they found something they love. For some reason, there's something they want to explore and help humanity. I had no idea what would happen. And there were times along my journey where I asked myself, was I crazy? That I could have kept my job with all those nice benefits and bonuses. Of course, the drama was there too. The politics was there also, but I says that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to struggle on my terms. Now, that's me. Everybody may not have that kind of mindset, that kind of philosophy, but I think most people who find their niche, who find their passion, will do that. But yes, the creator will test you. The creator will say, son, I want to see if you're really serious about this. I'm going to throw a little dirt in the game. I'm going to throw a little disappointments. I'm going to throw a little roadblocks in this, you know? But had somebody said when I first started that, Lloyd, you would write books, you would have shows, you do this, you do that, you'd be on every famous TV show host that's imaginable, I'd have said, yeah, get out of here. But that's exactly what happened. And what I'm saying is that all of you have all those potentials, except you have got to believe in yourself. That I cannot do for you. It took me a long time to learn myself, okay? To love myself, okay? And now I wouldn't want to be nobody else on the planet. But it took me a while. It takes you a minute, because we are so busy knocking each other, which is what Khalea talked about, the chaos and the drama, and we nitpicking and crabs in the barrel and stuff like that. And I remember one time I did this show, and somebody called in and said, man, every time somebody call in, it's always positive. Why not? We already know our shortcomings. One of the relatives is going to say it. One of your so-called friends are going to say it. Don't even think about the frenemies and enemies in your life that will say these things too. And what you want to do is have it at a point whereby you want to see the best in others. Everybody's got some fault, some frailty, some foible in their lives. You name me a perfect person, and I'll have them on next week. I'll bump my guests, okay? And speaking of guests, I want to show you who I'm going to have on Monday. I'm going to have two extraordinary guests. The first guest is going to be this young lady here, Free. She happens to be a Scorpio, which we're in Scorpio season. Free is an intuitive life coach. She's going to be on my show Monday. In fact, later that night, she begins her premiere show on the Learning Channel. So we're going to talk about that, what she does. She also taps into people, some of the ancestors and stuff like that. So she's going to be extraordinary. That's on the 22nd of that. Her name is Free. All right. Then on Wednesday, the 26th, we're going to have Aquarius Maximus. Now, she is a cardologist. In other words, she doesn't read the tarot. She read those regular playing cards when you're playing Keno and all these other games and Uno and whatever the case is. You can tell I don't know too much about card playing, but the point is, she will be reading and between. I expect Monday and Wednesday of next week to be full, but these will be the two guests. Monday, Free, and then Wednesday, Aquarius Maximus. Both of them are skilled. And by the way, Aquarius Maximus is also a Scorpio. And I guess, believe me, I didn't pick them because I said, man, this is Scorpio. And, I think I have a couple of Scorpios on. Believe me, it did not go like that at all. All I wanted to do was find people who were very unique, very dynamic in their own way, because each and every one of you are. Your point or role is to find your own dynamism, okay? And be the best that you can be, because you really can't be nobody else, all right? So, with that said, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very, very much for joining us. I really, really enjoyed this. Lloyd, I enjoyed interviewing you. Thank you very much, sir, for having me on. I appreciate this very much. So, anyway, it's about having fun. And don't forget, this is a full moon weekend. And as Khalea was saying, Khalea Washington was saying, things can, because the moon, first of all, is ruled by the element of water, and therefore emotions, and emotions are heightened. So keep arguments to a minimum, because we are in the sign of Scorpio that's ruled technically by the number 9, who is governed by the planet Mars. It's the planet of war, guns, knives, instruments, arguments, confrontations, fender benders, nicks, cuts, accidents, all kinds of things. So keeping that in mind, so we will still technically be in Scorpio by the weekend still. Yes, we'll be close to Sagittarius, but we won't quite be there until around about the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. But that's not what's coming up on Friday, Saturday. All right. It'll still be in the sign of Scorpio. So since we know that Scorpio, by those professional astrologers, know that it is ruled by the planet Mars, that governs knives, guns, instruments, warfare, confrontations, arguments, conflicts, stress, all kind of stuff going on. And then with it being a full moon and this being an eclipse, everybody just be patient. Usa, usa, take it easy, breathe. Of course, it's easier said than done, because I was not known to have too much patience myself. But I've learned, I've learned very much the laws and the lessons of patience. And so enjoy the weekend. Heighten your emotions by doing something, being creative, emotional, express feelings and emotions about people, but let them be positive. Don't be hating on nobody. Everybody knows that. Do something different for a change, okay? So, everybody, I rest my case. I'll see you Monday, where I'll have Free on, okay, the intuitive uh, life coach. And then I will have on Wednesday Aquarius Maximus, whose expertise is about cards. I mean, it's the most fantastic read. And both of these people you can see um, on Instagram, IG. In the meantime, please like, share, subscribe if you really, really, genuinely like this show. Okay. It's nice to get those kind of numbers, but the numbers I love is the numbers I share with you. Those are more important than any other set of numbers you can give me. Other than, you're talking about money, but even then, I'm not compromised. Money can't buy certain things. It really, really can't. Although you can't tell a whole lot of people it can, but money can't buy many of the things you think it can, right? So love yourself, because you have nobody else to love. You can't be nobody else. So please do that. Everybody, thank you. I will stop running my mouth. Lloyd, I enjoyed the interview. Thank you. I thank you for having me on. All right, everybody, have a nice day.